Oh no, the black film. What's it gonna do?
Huh? Yeah, there was a black one lying around here, so I set it up.
Jet, you idiot. And here it comes. Oh my god, it's worse than I thought. It turned Alistair into a furry! Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, but not legendary games of the past that you forgot about and left that save in the dust. This time I'm going to be looking at the Viewtiful Joe series from Capcom. I've looked at Capcom games before, but this one in particular represents a somewhat dark spot in Capcom's history. These days they're doing great, and you might hear people like Maximilian refer to them as being Cap God again. They were known for essentially releasing guaranteed bangers for years until this rough patch where the Western market started to look down on Japanese games. In an effort to show their commitment to the Nintendo GameCube, Capcom announced the Capcom 5 in 2002, which was a collection of 5 games that were going to be GameCube exclusive, including PN03, Killer 7, Resident Evil 4, Dead Phoenix, and of course, Viewtiful Joe. Of those, PN03 is the only one that stayed console exclusive, and Dead Phoenix, ironically, never even came out. This also ended up being called a miscommunication by Capcom, saying that Resident Evil was the only one that was meant to be exclusive, and we all know how that turned out. But besides RE4, the most well-known of these games is arguably Viewtiful Joe, developed by the specially created Team Viewtiful within Capcom in order to help develop game director Hideki Kamiya. I'll be looking at the later PS2 release of this game. It's based on the team's love for Japanese tokusatsu films, think Kamen Rider and Ultraman, or what Power Rangers was borrowing from for you non-weebs. They took that and combined it with some American comic book theming and a cel-shaded art style, and this is what we got. Okay, these are some interesting difficulty options. Yeah, I'm gonna fall for it. Give me adults. The story starts with Joe and his girlfriend Sylvia watching his favorite movie about the hero Captain Blue, and Sylvia has no interest in the classics. Joe is too weak to stop her and misses his favorite part of the film. Sylvia recognizes Captain Blue and is interrupted by the villain grabbing her and pulling her into the movie, then punching the hero robot out of it towards Joe. Guess this is a 4D film. That pulls us into the first level, Joe the Hero. Captain Blue has one of the most anime lines of all time.
I am Captain Blue. I am no longer able to fight because I have been defeated.
And begs Joe to save Sylvia and the world itself, and gives Joe a V-Watch. The combat is pretty simple in this game. You can dodge up or down, which will daze enemies, and you can punch and kick with square and triangle. Joe is actually an incredible acrobat, even without any powers, with a vertical that would get him an NBA contract in seconds, despite looking like he's been smashed down with a hydraulic press. Each combat rates you in how many V points you got, and how much you got hit, and how long you took. This is very similar to most character action games like Bayonetta, and each rating you get is used to give you an overall rating for the level. Once we've done enough, Captain Blue decides to test us. Upon defeating him, the V-Watch starts to glow.
When the V-Watch starts to glow, say the word Henshin!
Henshin and go-go, baby! You want some? We'll come and get it.
Henshin just means transform and is one of the tokusatsu references in the game. With this, we transform into Viewtiful Joe and gain access to the slow-mo VFX power. Holding it down too long will transform you back into regular Joe until it recharges, and you can collect the V-Reel things throughout each stage, where every 50 increases your bar. After a brief fight, a slot machine appears, and out comes the Joker. He's got some tricks, but oh my god does slow-mo give you a damage increase. With him out of the way, you have to use the slow-mo to cheat at the slot machine. Fuck you, Vegas. Which you can also get some extra coins and health out of before you move on. In the library up ahead, I died for the first time, and more of the movie theming comes through. The game is nothing if not charming. On my second attempt, I managed to beat the random cowboy robot, and set out looking for the secret in the room I assumed must exist because of the question mark in the bottom of the screen. This is actually just an indication of your goal for the screen, in this case meaning you have something you need to solve to move on, which is pushing the books onto the obvious button. This is really not communicated well to the player in my opinion, but once you understand what it means, you don't have to worry about it anymore. In the next room, things start to get more interesting. As you can see, the VFX powers have more of an effect on the world than you'd think, at least when the game wants them to. There are flying enemies, and slowing down time causes them to fall out of the sky, and while riding on this propelled platform, it will fall if you hold the button. Technically, I suppose this makes sense. They're too slow and they can't create enough lift to stay in the air anymore, but also, why does gravity pull them down so fast, but Joe and enemies can float in the air for what seems like forever? The answer is simple. Rule number 1 of Viewtiful Joe is, shut up, it's cool. This is Movie Land, we get to decide how things work. Now, we're going to fight a helicopter inside a big cathedral. Shut up. The helicopter also falls out of the air under slow-mo, but our main way to do damage here is to slow down time and punch the bullets and missiles it shoots at us back at it, which is also exactly how that works. Because of the angle it shoots them at, I found this pretty difficult to do, and when I died and ran out of lives, I started at the beginning of the level. You get to start as Viewtiful Joe right away, but yeah, you need to beat the stage in its entirety without running out of all 2 lives you start with in order to advance. Once I made it back with both of my lives intact, I noticed here that keeping it in slow-mo when a missile hits the helicopter causes it to take extra damage. I guess because the explosion takes longer to dissipate? This one is really stretching movie logic, but we still haven't arrived at crayon-eating level, or even worse, Fast and Furious level. I ran out of lives once again, and at this point, I admit defeat. I can't go through the entire level again just for one more chance at this helicopter boss fight. I'm switching to kids. It even mocks me with the sound when you pick it. The game was known for its difficulty, and the PS2 release specifically added Sweet Mode to be easier than Kids. But I've got to have some pride, damn it. Kids Mode noticeably starts you with much more health and 4 extra lives instead of 2, on top of the fights and ratings just generally being easier to do. I still had some trouble with the helicopter even on the lower difficulty, but I did beat it on the first try this time. That takes us to break time, where you can save the game and use the coins you've collected to power up. The options there range from new moves and more health, to even extra lives and power-ups that pick you back up right where you died, called Take Twos. You can also buy hamburgers to heal, because the damage you took is coming with you into the next level, meaning I have to start Stage 2 with just 2 health. It's a real wonder I couldn't beat this game as a kid. Stage 2 starts with another puzzle where this time, slowing down time makes this water bubble get bigger. And then it has enough weight to push the button, but also Joe standing on it can't push it. This game does not care at all about making sense. Refer back to rule number 1. Captain Blue wants to test us again, and it's a good thing I got that Take 2 or I would have been mildly inconvenienced. When you beat him, you get the Mach Speed VFX power, and then a barrel blocks your path. So obviously, you need that Mach Speed to advance past it, right? Nope, it's the slow-mo. In my opinion, the slow-mo is better in every way, and it's even used more in puzzle solving, though you do use Mach Speed just ahead to light some torches on fire since you catch on fire during it. Stage 3 is then the first boss fight, Charles III. Of course, it's not a real boss fight if we don't get serious and get a mask and visor. When you hit old Batty, he disintegrates into a bunch of smaller bats, and destroying those is what really damages him. I have no idea what you're supposed to be doing here, honestly. It feels like they gave me a hammer and a brick and told me to fix a broken window. I have no idea how the powers I have are supposed to help, but you can still kill him by being stubborn and just slowly taking out the bats, so that's what I did. I did notice his pink Goku Black attack can destroy his own bats, but I still don't get how you're supposed to use it. This marks the end of the first episode, and the narrator comes on like it's an episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Where could Sylvia be? Is she safe? Is she even alive?
Finally, I'm presented with my overall grade and can move on to the next episode, Some Like It Red Hot. This one throws us right into it, and the VFX meter has been reset. You have to grab the V-reels to increase your meter in every individual episode. There's another propeller platform just ahead, and this time we have to use Mach Speed to get the platform to raise so we can jump over this sewer geyser. The propeller can get farther because it's spinning faster, but the geyser is completely unaffected? Right. Captain Blue then approaches us for the final trial to earn the last VFX power. He has more health again, but still the same moves as well as some words of wisdom when the fight ends.
May hero-ness be with you.
The final power is Zoom In, which gives us a couple new moves like this spinning jump and a pile driving stomp. This is by far the most broken power in the game once you realize how to use it, which I'll point out later. A bit through the sewers, the Joker shows his ugly face again, and it's a copy and paste of the same fight. Unfortunate, but at least we get to cheat at the mini slots again. Fuck you, Mini Vegas. Then out on the city streets, there's some more enemies, cars to dodge, and some crazy signs in the background, like this bottomless and topless strip club. Charles is on a sign for Enzo the Vampire, and something for drag queens as well. Right in line with that, some cars corner Joe in the street, and after some regular enemies, out pops some... yeah, those are just dominatrix robots. Did I mention I played this as a kid? Most likely with my mom watching? Rated T for teen, by the way. With them down, a bus shows up, and it has jet boosters on the back, like most buses. You need to slow down time for it to charge up so you can launch yourself across the gap. Once across, we are copy-pasting a fight again, this time with 2 helicopters. It's evident that while this game was ambitious and had a lot of ideas, they probably didn't get much in the way of funds to develop it. At least the helicopters only fight you one at a time. Next, we do some more fighting and puzzle solving through a building, including learning to slow time as bombs go off to make their explosions more powerful and bust open some doors. With that, we make our way to Hulk Davidson, the next member of the evil organization Jado.
What can I do for you, kiddo? I guess you heard I rule the roost around here. Am I right? Am I right? Huh?
Oh man, don't flatter yourself.
He can set you on fire, and you need to use Mach speed and run around to put it out before it damages you. This is also where I discovered how to use the zoom in. If you zoom in and slow down time while holding punch instead of pressing it, Joe does an unbelievable amount of damage, which really trivializes a lot of bosses. I died to Hulk twice before I learned about this, and beat him easily on the time I did figure it out. Hulk had a wonderful crayon drawing on his desk explaining Jado's plan to flood the city, so Joe stops planning to find Sylvia so he can save the city first. Then he calls in his 6 machine flying vehicle, which of course he had the entire time because he's a superhero, and heads off. The level starts with Joe flying in a side-scrolling shooter in the 6 machine, but we can still use our VFX powers and slow down time to make our bullets bigger and more damaging. This comes in to change the pace and doesn't last too long, but I was starting to get a bit fatigued at this point, so this really brought me back. The section ends with a Harrier fight that's really easy, but would be way easier if Joe would just turn around. Don't tell me this thing can't do that. It came to him by command from inside a building. The laws of physics have no business here. With that, we jump into the next area. Holy shit, I get it. This thing is going to go off for the entire level, isn't it?
Yep.
Repeating endlessly?
Most likely.
Bring it on.
You just have to fight through a few screens worth of enemies with that sound destroying your ability to think for about 10 minutes before you can turn it off. After fighting your way back out, Joe is stopped by the one who set the bomb and who tells him the submarine there goes straight to their base. He also says they need Sylvia to escape from Movie Land and rule the real world, and Joe is way ahead of his time and complains to the boss for yapping.
What are you yapping about? Escape Movie Land.
This shark is Grand Bruce, and while the fight starts on land, he quickly floods the arena and starts setting up mines and dashing at you. Using the slow zoom technique makes this fight a breeze, and the submarine starts to take off, so Joe leaps onto it. The submarine is the most annoying level in this game by far, and is the thing I would least look forward to on a replay. You have to make your way through fighting a ton of enemies, including some new ones like these sailor guys and these big guys, and slowly doing different things to the level, like here where you turn it upside down. Because it involves running through areas you've already been and changing things as you go, it can be really difficult to tell where exactly you need to go next. The devs were clearly aware of this and tried to make it easier with arrows and maps showing up as you go, but since they don't go away after you clear whatever objective they're pointing you to, I still found it really easy to get lost. There's also this puzzle that requires you to memorize the lights that come on and then hit them afterwards. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Did you get that? Here's one more. Maybe I'm just stupid. I'm no chimp memorizing numbers on a screen, but that seems so fast to me. I did complete it eventually without trying to cheat by taking a picture with my phone, but I was about to do that. After finally realizing you have to flip the sub back around with the wheel, I made it to the next boss fight against Joe? Our Joe is not taking this very seriously.
Whoever wins has to change into a yellow outfit. Okay?
But I've suddenly become aware of how annoying Joe is to fight for our enemies. If this one used the slow zoom on me, I would have been cooked. I had some real problems with this and died a couple times, but then I figured out that this is actually the easiest fight of all time because he has absolutely no defense for pure aggression, and I beat him in seconds. After he died, a shadowy figure that looks similar to Joe popped out and took off, and then the sub gets taken out. Oh god damn it, not this fucking robot voice again. This time it's an escape sequence that would be the only fun part of this level if that voice wasn't haunting me. Once you get out, Joe tries to talk underwater, and then he swims off to find the enemy hideout.
Time to go to work, guys.
Now the enemies are breaking out the big guns. How about the literal tank? It functions pretty much the same as all the other vehicles though. Slow down time and send its shells right back at it. The tank is immediately followed up by a Harrier that we're fighting on foot this time. The challenge here is really that they're at the start of the level, so you haven't had a chance to build up your VFX meter at all yet. Then we hop into the sewers of Movie Land, where surprisingly you can't find any alligators, but instead there's lava. Things are really heating up. This level is a gauntlet with another 2 Harriers and a tank back topside. Then it ends with me struggling to get on top of a train.
Failure.
The train is set to explode, so now we're trying to escape it within a timer, and thank God it's just an alarm this time with no robotic voice making me want to die. The train takes us right to the next boss fight, which we arrive at in gloriously glitched out style. And that made the sound off for the entire cutscene. Anyway, this guy tells us that the villains want to escape from Movie Land because they're afraid of being stuck there after film is no longer used, and they need Sylvia to do it. He read it straight out of the game's script. Then the battle against Alistair begins. This guy is a Devil May Cry wannabe, and the exact same strategy that worked against him when he was disguised as Joe works here. Just be super aggressive and don't let him get away. Needless to say, Alistair is impressed.
Tell me, what do they call you?
And Joe comes up with his name finally.
Yeah, that works. I'm Joe. Viewtiful Joe.
Alistair then disappears, and Joe is ready to continue his quest for Sylvia, which he totally forgot about. The bar is literally on the floor, men. Also, Alistair wishes he had a bigger part in the game.
Am I done for? You're kidding, right? Oh, come on! No! Come on!
The next level is the Magnificent Five, and the cutscenes are still bugged out, but this was the last time it did that to me. This level is a boss rush, which is kind of oddly placed and doesn't really make sense to me, other than maybe they needed more levels and didn't have more in the budget. They don't even have any new dialogue. The bad guys have more health, but the fights are pretty much the same. First we take out Charles III, fourth, I guess. Then the Hulk Davidson in a new arena, where I got a perfect rating. Please hold your applause until the end. Okay, thank you. You're too kind. Anyway, third is Grand Bruce again. Fourth is the Joe clone with a new look but the same weakness. And finally, we have reached Sylvia. She doesn't believe Joe has been looking for her, but they're interrupted by Fire Leo.
Yeah, right. I've been watching you all along from here. You were so busy showing off, you hardly even thought about me.
Hey, that's not true.
Leo tries to pull a Darth Vader.
You join our forces as the newest member of Shadow HQ. And once we've conquered the world, you can rule over half of it.
But Joe isn't interested, and the battle begins. This boss fight sucks. I'm sorry, but it does. It's incredibly unclear what you need to do and is very punishing. Unlike any other point in the game, if you use Mach Speed to hit one of Leo's boulders until Joe catches fire, you'll suddenly be immune to all Fire Leo's fire-based attacks. Then you have to use that window to get close and start a chain of melee attacks from him and dodge all of them perfectly. Slowing down time and using the automatic dodge doesn't count, you have to dodge them all regularly. Once you've done that, he becomes vulnerable for a bit. These mechanics are way too obscure in my opinion, and even if they weren't, there's very little room for error. And this is on kids mode. It would be obnoxious on the harder difficulty. With Leo defeated, Sylvia better be impressed, because that was really annoying. Joe jumps out to rescue her, but of course, she's been kidnapped again by the villain.
From the beginning part.
The 6 machine comes to pick Joe up, and now we're moving on to the final level. For that, we're going to space. If you know anything about the developers of this game, we were always going to be going to space. It's like clockwork for them. There are an asinine amount of enemies in these stages, but at least some of them are still new. Like these space tanks, which work exactly the same as land tanks, but space. There's also some robot Fire Leo enemies, which gave me Vietnam flashbacks, but thankfully they go down like regular enemies. Then I entered this room and was really confused at how to advance, but this time we're fighting the background. Those ships shooting lasers at us have to go, and they give us a steady supply of missiles to do the job. How kind of them. Up ahead, we meet up with Sylvia, and the one that kidnapped her is Captain Blue. Honestly, I saw that one coming from a mile away. He also says he's the creator of the movie world and wants to take over the real world.
Sylvia, I am your father, Sylvia.
Yeah, he's also Darth Vader. Apparently it's a theme here. He transforms into the evil robot we've seen, and no good tokusatsu film is complete without a giant robot battle. Henshin a go-go, baby. We're going to fight with our Megabot 6 Majin while walking around the entire Earth. Gurren Lagann was all I could think about during this. The fight isn't too hard, though I did mess up and lose my take 2 during it. Now we're out of the robots and are going to finish this fight with our fists. Against Joe's girlfriend's dad. Surely that won't cause any problems. The camera got lost in the sauce for some reason and I had to reset, but I got back pretty quick. I had some trouble with Blue because of the lasers, but I got him within a few tries. Sylvia is fully on board with him being her father and goes to his aid. Blue tells us he was a famous movie maker and was sucked into one of his films and became a hero, but lost touch with reality and forgot about his family. During this, he slowly turned to evil, but Sylvia has forgiven him and the audience cheers. Blue tells Joe that there's more, as aliens are coming to Earth to take over. He says there are 2 more times the Earth will be in danger and the heroes will need to save it. Sylvia doesn't want to be left behind this time, though, and begs for her own V-Watch. With it, she transforms into Sexy Sylvia. That's actually the name. I'm not coming up with that. And they're ready to set off together to stop the next threat. That is where the credits roll. Wait, what the hell is going on? Yeah, for some reason, there's a whole-ass music video with all the main characters that plays after the credits. I have no idea why they made this, but it is incredible. More games should end like this. After the music video, we get our results screen, and courtesy of the PS2 version, we can now play as Dante. Just slap this on there. Going into New Game Now, I put in the cheat code to unlock all the alternate characters. You can unlock them by beating all the alternate difficulties with V ratings, which is absolutely impossible for me. I thought kids was plenty hard enough. So let's take a look at these real quick. First I picked Sylvia, and each alternate character has their own unique scenario for the game. I'm not going to play through it all to see where they all lead, but for Sylvia, she's now the big Captain Blue fan, and is at the theater with her girlfriend, who also looks exactly like her. Also, they all talk in reverse or Simlish, I'm not sure which. I don't know if that's because I used the cheat code or if it's always like this, but it's just bizarre. This time, the girlfriend Goldie gets kidnapped, and that gets you into the game. Sylvia then tells Blue that she can do just as well as Joe, so I guess that all happened, and they have an open relationship? Pretty crazy for 2003. Sylvia plays pretty much the same as Joe, but she moves a bit faster and can jump a little higher. Her outfit is the same as what we saw in the ending of the game. This is really neat, especially for a short game like this, and if I had more time, I would have played through all of them completely just to see what their storylines are. Next, I tried out Alistair, and they are really laying it on thick that he's just a Dante wannabe. Considering he was in the original release and Dante wasn't, this makes a little bit more sense. Sylvia gets kidnapped again, and in his human form, Alistair has a sword, because he's a cool guy. He loves the challenge and plays similar once again, other than having a few sword attacks. But it really gets different once you pass the first Captain Blue fight. Instead of saying henshin, Alistair lives up to his looks.
Devil trigger!
This gives him his form that he was a boss fight in and constantly depletes his VFX gauge. He has to press a button to transform and then can maintain it with battle, or will have to wait for it to recharge again, just like a devil trigger. Or at least I think. I've never actually played a Devil May Cry game. Maybe I should get on that. Up next is Captain Blue, who is watching the film with his wife, and for some reason is decked out in the Stars and Stripes. Blue is functionally identical to Joe as far as I can tell, except he can't see the danger symbols which tell you whether to dodge up or down, because this game needed to get harder. I cannot imagine trying to fight Fire Leo with him. Finally, we have Dante, who is wearing his finest banana hammock. Trish is with him in the theater, gets kidnapped, and he goes after her. Besides being basically naked, he fights like Joe in his human form. He says his own transformation words.
Devil May Cry's a rockin', baby, yeah!
And he doesn't use his devil trigger, but actually gets his usual closing weapons, which are incredibly powerful and a neat alternate way to play the game. The replayability of this game lies in trying to get better ratings and playing through as the alternate characters, and for such a unique 2D character action game, I think that's just enough. This game is overloaded with charm and has a pretty neat art style, though I'll admit that it does get a bit repetitive over time. There are far less moves and combo potential than other games in this genre, like Devil May Cry, and the difficulty is a little crazy to me, but the game itself was actually very successful for its budget. There's no chance in hell I was ever beating it as a kid, though. Even now, I had to use a guide to figure out what to do with Fire Leo's infuriating ass. But if you like character action games at all, or 2D beat-em-ups, I'd say it's right up your alley, and you should definitely give it a shot and see if you can beat it on adults. And if you do, congratulations. You can come back here and gloat in the comments about how much better than me you are, because seriously, there's no way I could do it. This was Team Viewtiful, or Clovers, as they were eventually renamed, first game, and they followed it up shortly afterwards with Viewtiful Joe 2 in 2004. We're picking right back up where we left off in Viewtiful Joe 1, and this time we're a team featuring both Joe and Sylvia. I'm starting on kids mode right from the start this time. Adults is just not for me. Aliens are now attacking, which somehow doesn't sound weird at all for this series. They're led by the evil Black Emperor, and Joe is as unserious as ever.
Joe and Sylvia, here to save the day.
That is one serious saucer, dude. Can I give it a test drive?
Captain Blue is abducted, so this time he's our damsel in distress, and the Black Emperor gives us the plot.
I already have one of the precious rainbow Oscars, which contain the power of the happy ending. Once I have all 7, nothing can stop me!
This game starts with a prehistoric level, and both characters have gone back to normal.
Sylvia, when the heck did you change your clothes?
Are you kidding? This is the movies. You can do anything you want. Why don't you give it a whirl?
You don't have to tell me. Go, Fat Hat!
This game has a nearly identical tutorial system, but also lets you know about the uppercut this time instead of having to figure it out for yourself, and introduces you to the switching mechanic. You can switch at any time between Joe and Sylvia, but untransformed Sylvia has a bop it for a weapon, so she's basically useless. The V-Reel mechanic is exactly the same, as well as how you progress through each fight and get a rating. After a minute of fighting, it's time for Henshin a Go-Go, baby!
We're back!
We get the slow-mo VFX power right away as well and go off on our way, which still doesn't give a shit about physics and lowers propeller platforms. In the upgrade screen this time, things are much cheaper, and there are upgrades for both characters. You can also choose who to start the level as in break time, but I'm pretty much always going to choose Joe. Also, Sylvia, while transformed, comes with a gun instead of her bop it, which is obviously the natural evolution. This game likes to interact with the background a bit more, like when we set this volcano off to press a button, and then have it hold the meteor when we're done with it. Then a UFO comes and drops off an enemy that's holding our Mach speed power for us. Thank you, prehistoric Amazon. Sylvia does not get this power, however. Mach speed is exclusive to Joe. I picked up an upgrade to give Sylvia a second gun after this, which really improves her damage, and soon enough we hamster wheel our way into the first boss fight, which is a tank that drills into the ground. With that out of the way, it's time to meet the first episode boss. He has more titles than sense,
This is Sergeant John of the 5th Panzer Division, 1st Reconnaissance Regiment, 2nd Platoon.
rivaling Joe, who starts a fight with Sylvia right away.
Elite? You gotta be kidding me. Try dating Sylvia here. She'll have you whimpering in seconds flat.
Joe, what's that supposed to mean?
The enemy group is called Godot this time, but these two idiots are not paying any attention. I tried Sylvia out a little bit, who gets more scantily clad instead of just getting a mask for boss fights like Joe does. With 2 guns in slow-mo, her damage is pretty good, so I went ahead and finished off Big John with her. The DBZ narrator comes back again, but he's interrupted by this guy. This is Jet, Joe's father, who Sylvia calls Uncle Jet.
Oh, Uncle Jet?
Which makes their relationship way weirder than it already was. After beating Big John, they acquire one of the Rainbow Oscars and agree they need to collect the others from the other films, and they need Jet to change the films for them. They're all glowing different colors, and he throws the green one in. By the way, the Oscar statue is copyrighted, and absolutely no mention of that appears in the credits. I have no idea how this weird-ass Japanese game got permission to do this, but I'm starting to wonder if they even did. They aren't exactly one-to-one recreations, so maybe they got away with it because of that? I could not find any information on how that was possible, so if anyone knows, please tell me in the comments. The next level is clearly inspired by Indiana Jones, bearing the name Statue of Doom. And with it, we get our first chance to cheat at slots. Fuck you, Totemic Vegas. Just inside, we find Sylvia's R1 power, Replay. This allows her to repeat an action for a total of 3 times, and is mostly used for puzzles and switches. While struggling with this puzzle after that, I paused the game, and this is what you hear.
Okay, go see what she wants.
All the pause quotes are like this, and are kind of funny if a bit outdated. We jump on a minecart to end the stage, and the next one starts up with a Donkey Kong-style minecart section that's a ton of fun. Big John rolls back in with a tank, and we even have a boss fight on it. Sylvia has slow-mo and heart guns, though, and heart guns are more powerful than tanks. Oh. Well, they are in this universe. Of note as well, I cleared this stage with 2 HP left, and at break time, I've been restored to full health, at least on Kids mode. This game's a bit easier than Viewtiful Joe 1, even without having the sweet difficulty mode. There are more stages per level now, no more strict 2 stages before the boss structure that the first game had. But with stage 4, we get the next episode boss, Flinty Stone. And I guess he's a sleepy Arnold Schwarzenegger?
You're the ones who disturbed the tomb of the Oscar!
I'm not sure what they were going for here. Sylvia's gun doubles as an alarm clock, and Flinty tells us all 7 Rainbow Oscars are necessary for the Black Emperor's plan. This guy is super relatable. He just needs a nap.
I need a map!
He likes to just stand there most of the time until he transforms into a snake version that you have to dodge for a bit. So far, these bosses are a joke compared to the first game, and I just punched him to death with Joe. With that, we have the second Rainbow Oscar, which Joe will hold, and Jet pops in the next film. I guess he's just casually watching all this happen from the theater. The next film brings back the Harrier boss fight. Just copy and paste that shit right into the next game, why not? It's now even easier than before with Sylvia around though, and that gives us the zoom-in power once again, which means Joe is now the ultimate boss killer, because unfortunately Sylvia cannot attack as fast as he can while zoomed in, as she does a booty bounce instead of using her guns. Joe is a lucky man. I started messing around with her replay in the next fight, and it works against you too. If an enemy hits you while you're holding it, get ready to watch that happen 3 times and take damage each time too. Sadly, all that really means is that Joe is just completely superior in combat unless you want Sylvia's guns. Like for this transforming Harrier fight, where she really shines compared to him. I want to know how anyone opens this safe considering you need VFX powers to deal with the lock. And once it's open, out pops everyone's favorite dinosaur. After Barney, I mean. He's in his tank again, but we have zoom in now, and my god, the damage is ridiculous. We chase the next Oscar around for a bit, and Dr. Kranken shows up. Interesting camera angle we have here. The boss is Camo Leon, the chameleon. Cute. I wonder if that pun was the same in the original Japanese, but they also bring up the black film, which is apparently part of their plan. We'll have to watch out for that later. Right now, they're going to fight us together, 2 versus 2 for the first time. Kranken can heal his friend, but it doesn't matter because I literally one-shot him with the zoom-in. Starting to think I should have given adults a shot this time, but it's too late. I'm already committed to kids. Crankin was not defeated with his pal, so he takes off, but we still acquired the next Rainbow Oscar. According to the narrator, it was their plan to let Crankin go, but I'm not so sure about that. Now Jet sets the red film, and this time it's a Japanese theme. The title screen of this level totally spoils that Alistair from the first game is going to show up again, which really sucks. He was a good character to bring back, and making it a surprise would have been more fun. Anyway, this version of Japan has guillotine torii gates, Mario jump pads, and a UFO boss fight, exactly as you would expect from old school Japan. After that, I was fighting this ninja, and holy crap, what was that? Apparently the uppercut has almost no recovery in slow-mo, so you can attack stupidly fast. That's gonna get used later. But first, we need to fight Robot Buddha. This level is insane. Then two of the world's most annoying puzzles run back to back, as you have to get all these artifacts in a room together while moving the rooms around, and then hit enemies into a bell way too many times. It's boss time now, and instead of Alistair, here's Big John again. And now he comes with an extra helping of racism. We aren't going to fight him though. Alistair is of course here. This conversation is even more meta than the previous one. Look at this.
I'm not about to introduce myself. You want to know who I am? Go to your nearest discount store and get a copy of Viewtiful Joe.
Alistair has some new electric powers and isn't quite as vulnerable to aggression, but he still isn't hard. With him down, Jet decides to put on the black film. Great, we know what that does from the intro. Did Alistair want this? He seems like the type. This is the real boss fight of the episode, of course, and it's much more difficult. You can hit his swords back at him and get a few hits in yourself, but he has much more health than before, and now his lightning attacks move around and are significantly harder to dodge. He got me once, and you have to start over from the first fight if that happens. Poor guy's getting furried again. This time I realized you can destroy the things that shoot lightning, and they sometimes give health, so while it was still tougher than any other boss, I got him. I think he's dead this time.
Forever rest his soul.
Jet destroys the black film, and we've got yet another Oscar. Oh hey, Alistair isn't dead. He fell into the real world.
No! Come on, help a brother out! I'm packing heat!
He's what? That was weird. Time for a snow level. Let's get ourselves a pass for the lift from this UFO. Why did they make this jump so hard? Finally, damn. Let me just punch Starscream to death real quick and we'll be on our way. Of course you're up here too. The 6 machine rescues us and now we're underwater with it. This is pretty cool, but I can't figure out how to get past this stupid ice. Oh. Okay, sure, that works. Oh crap, here it is again. Oh, wait a minute, Sylvia's here. Huh, I guess she has a drill. I'll be honest, I kind of forgot about her once I got to zoom in. While in break time, I finally decided to check out the hint section, and it seems like these are some kind of collectible. They don't really help with anything, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out how you get them. I'm guessing it has something to do with getting V ranks, since you can't get additional characters in this game, but I really don't know. At the start of the next stage, you have to break through some ice, which regenerates if you don't do it fast enough. I figured it had something to do with Mach speed and was struggling with it, but then I remembered my discovery from earlier. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but I'm sure going to abuse it. Boss time, Big John is back. Okay, never mind. We have an edgy Tiger Man. Wait a minute, Tiger Man. Please, no.
Joe, I heard you gave my brother, Fire Leo, a hell of a time.
Fuck, he's Fire Leo's brother. He's not even after revenge, he just wants a fight. Well, let's see what he has in store for us. It's a copy-paste again. Come on, man. You can fight him under the top of his stage, and I actually found that to be way easier to get him to do his melee attacks. And here's the not-so-slow-mo uppercut in action on his health. Of course, he killed me 3 times, even with a take 2 going, but once I got into a rhythm and started to understand the fight more, I felt like this one was better designed, though maybe that's just because I've already done this. With him gone, that's Oscar number 6, and there's a fake Sylvia now. It's pretty obvious which one is real, but Joe is an idiot and gives the fake the Oscars. She transforms into a robot form and takes off, so guess we have to go get them all back.
The Earth is in deep, deep, deep...
Dude, Voodoo!
Trouble.
Oh. Looks like we're back in the first level of the first game now, which is pretty neat. Dr. Kranken is here, and he was the creator of the robot, Miss Bloody Rachel. Ah, it's the boss rush. Guess we're doing that again. It's slightly different versions of the bosses like last time, but still, it's a boss rush. First is Big John, then Flinty, then Camo Leone featuring his new pinball attack. At least I think it's new since I beat him so fast the first time. Then Frost Tiger, which I'm a pro at by now. During all of that, Joe and Sylvia were teaching Bloody Rachel the concept of humanity and having a heart, and she gives them the Oscars, or at least tries to, but Dr. Kranken stops her, so we're going to fight him now. His fight is really simple, just break his shield open and beat on him until it's over, and I had 2 take-2s saved up, so I really was in no danger. He has a second phase, but it's really nothing. So what about Captain Blue and the other Oscar? Yeah, this game isn't done. We haven't gone to space yet. One more episode remains. Joe fixed Bloody Rachel, and they become friends. I keep thinking this picture that shows up is Sylvia kissing her, but maybe that's just me. Joe then gives the Oscars to Jet somehow, and yeah, the final episode is space. Seriously, they cannot help themselves. We've got some new xenomorph robots and shield enemies, but this follows similarly to the first game. There's just an unreasonable amount of enemies in these levels, artificially inflating the length of the game. This also features a puzzle even more annoying than the Japan level, where you need to hit some buttons with enemies, and one of them requires you to do an uppercut to an enemy, and then kick it to the button with perfect timing, and if the enemy dies, it alternates to an enemy that can't take 2 hits, so you have to kill it every time to try again. Also, if you don't hold slow-mo the entire time, you can't chain 2 knockbacks together, which makes it even more difficult to time, because that zooms the screen in a bit, and you can't see what you're aiming at. Those buttons are not beautiful at all. After the puzzles and a ton more enemies is another mini-boss copy-paste. I honestly just want to get to the end at this point. This entire part is just bloat. It's the digging tank here, then a platforming section finishes the stage. A million more enemies leads into a hairier boss fight, with both the regular one and the transforming one. Then another Big John fight, but now he has Little Johns. After all that, we're still not done rehashing mini-bosses, and this time it's Robo-Buddha. Finally, we have reached the Black Emperor. He has the black film, which is apparently unbreakable and couldn't actually be destroyed. Oh no, he's gonna turn everyone into a furry! But first, giant robot fight! What, you thought we weren't gonna do that again? You can still swap between Joe and Sylvia here, but there's really no reason to. They've increased the scale of this one, and instead of fighting on the world, we're on the asteroid belt this time. You can beat up the Earth or another celestial body to build up the heat on your Mach speed, and use that to dodge his fire attacks. Overall, it's very simple like before. Once he's finished, out pops Jet. Once again, the twist is very easy to predict, but more than that, it's literally a copy-paste of the story. This time, it's Joe's father instead of Sylvia's, and Captain Blue was the one that was kidnapped, but it's basically exactly the same. The Black Emperor uses the Oscars to turn white, yet he's called Jet Black now. Then I have no idea what's going on, but now we're at the Viewtiful Awards? Joe and Sylvia are ejected from Movie World, and Jet Black still has his powers. The heroes are still going to fight him, but without their powers, it's useless. The audience cheers them on, and by some magic, they're able to transform in the real world too. This fight makes you chase him around like the Elden Beast from Elden Ring, which means Sylvia doesn't really help. You know what does, though?
Cheese!
This uppercut is still hilarious. The Rainbow Oscars are ejected, and Captain Blue is saved. Blue and Jet were old friends. Jet ran a theater and showed the films that Blue would make. Jet found the black film at some point, and that turned him into an evil man and led us to this point. All is forgiven, and the day is saved. Before we can celebrate, a mysterious castle appears, and Sylvia reminds us from the first game that there's still one threat remaining for the Earth, and Jet tells us that the secrets behind the black film and his V-Watch, as well as the ultimate enemy, lie in wait there. This ends the game. No random music video this time. There's no extra characters like I mentioned earlier, but instead Viewtiful Joe 2 has a Bloody Palace-like mode called the 36 Chambers. A Wu-Tang reference? No, it's actually a reference to the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, a Hong Kong Kung Fu film. The film is about overcoming obstacles and is a fitting name for a mode like that. I didn't play through it, but considering I cleared the game on kids difficulty in about 4.5 hours, this is where you can get some replayability outside of vying for V ranks. So there you have it. That's the Viewtiful Joe series. Even though they made these 2 games back to back, Clover never finished the series. The next 2 games they made were Viewtiful Joe handheld games that don't advance the plot, and then they made Okami and God Hand before eventually getting the axe by Capcom. Clover is known for making cult classic games. I named every game they made, and all of them besides the 2 handheld games are well known for being commercial failures that are still loved by fans. Because of this, many of the leads, like Hideki Kamiya, left Capcom and went on to form Platinum Games, who you might know as the developers of Bayonetta and Nier Automata. Kamiya has said in the past that he'd like to finish the story, but that's not likely to ever happen as Capcom owns the franchise, and not only does he not work for them, he doesn't even work at Platinum Games anymore. The story for the first 2 is virtually identical anyway, so I'm not really sure we need that ending. Capcom featured Viewtiful Joe and Amaterasu from Okami in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, so the Clover legacy lives on there, but that's pretty much it, other than an Okami sequel on the Nintendo DS, Okami Den, that I don't think many people played. The Viewtiful Joe series is a lot of fun, and you can either get through both games in a few sittings and have your fun with them, or if you're the more hardcore type of character action game fan, you can replay the levels and try to get V ratings, or even go for clears on all the characters in the first game and the 36 chambers in the second. If you're a fan of the newer games like Bayonetta or Nier and haven't played these, I recommend going back to check them out. I found a Reddit post as recently as March this year in the Capcom Reddit page asking for Viewtiful Joe 3, so it still has fans out there that would love the conclusion of the story, and if you play it for yourself, you can probably see why. While not one of the greatest games ever made, it has its place in gaming history, as every Clover game does, honestly, and it won't soon be forgotten. If you're still holding out for Viewtiful Joe 3, or just enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like or subscribing, and check back in a few weeks for the next video for another old game that deserves to be remembered.